Alright everybody, back to give a bit of a look at how I put my Yankee binders together. Used to do a lot more binder videos years ago. Might have even done something like this before, but I've had some new viewers over the past year or so who have asked how I do my binder stuff, since I'm always mentioning my binders. And shout out to Nerding Out with Cards, because he's been doing some great binder videos lately that have really made me want to get back to doing some binder videos. So we'll start with Bernie Williams binders. There's three of them. Now in this video, I'm not going to show like every single card or every single page. This is more so to show how I split my Yankee collection up into all these different binders. So if there's a specific binder or specific section or player that people want to see more in depth, just let me know. But again, this is going to be more of like a speed run through the binders. So in this first one, there's rookies and minor league stuff and just some early 90s stuff in general. I think it goes up to like 1992. But yeah, tons of copies of his rookies and still adding more. I love adding his rookies and putting pages together. There's some 91, some 92. Actually, there's a few from 93 there, so it probably goes up to 93, and then the next binder will pick up where this one leaves off. So yeah, this one starts with some stuff from 1994, and I usually have a magazine or two with the binders, so this one was in front of that one. You have Bernie up there. I think that might have been the only time Bernie was on one of the Beckett covers, and it was with a bunch of other Yankees. But yeah, some stuff from 94. So yeah, I keep this stuff in order by year and try to keep the specific products together. But I'm not like super strict with it. Like sometimes there could be multiple products on a page, and they're not like in alphabetical order by product or anything like that. I just kind of go with how the stuff fits and sometimes by how it looks. But yeah, this one covers a lot of stuff. This is the bigger one because it's stuff from 94 to 99. And so there's a lot of inserts and subsets and parallels and stuff. The numbered parallels are usually not in here though. I usually top load those. Unless it's something like this, like the really high numbered Donruss stuff. And obviously no autos or relics or anything like that in here. But still a nice variety, a lot of cool stuff. And generally no doubles, but every now and then I'll try to put a page together like that if the doubles look cool together. Those are all different. Topps Tex. But yeah, like I said, this one goes to 99 with some Pacific stuff. And then we'll jump to the 2000s. So this one's a little bit smaller than that previous one. Just have like a Yankee photo there with Bernie there and one of his CD covers. Yeah, starts with the year 2000 and then goes to the end of his career, and then a lot of his post-career stuff, which there seems to be more and more of it every year. Again, lots of products represented, lots of different types of stuff. Still looking to add a ton of Bernie stuff, especially from this era. Like early 2000s where I really cut back on buying stuff, and so there's a lot of holes in my collection from like 2000 and beyond. The Uno cards, those are all different. Got a few WBC cards sprinkled throughout. But yeah, that wraps up the Bernie binders. So now we move on to the other Yankee binders, and there's a lot more. That was just the tip of the iceberg. So this is Jeter, and this is the magazine that I had in front there. So just one binder for Jeter, but I'm really pushing it because this one's jam-packed. Like if I add a few more pages, I'm gonna have to get another one. But yeah, same deal. Got them in year order, so there's some minor league stuff. A few rookies. I have most of his rookies top loaded. These are just the ones that were like in rough shape, so I put them in there. Yeah, a lot of 90s stuff. So again, a lot of his cards were in that era where there was just tons of products and inserts and subsets and all that. So tons of Jeter stuff through the years. And most of these are different. There's very little doubles in there. I forget exactly where my Jeter count is at. But yeah, this covers his whole career. And yeah, like the higher end stuff I won't put in here, but there's still some nice inserts and stuff. So yeah, just kind of speeding through, but if at some point people want to see like more in-depth look at this, just let me know. Now this next one has two players, two of my other all-time favorites, Tino Martinez and Paul O'Neill towards the back. So I paired these two guys together a long time ago, but this is another binder that's pretty much full, so if I continue to add stuff, which I do keep adding cards of both these guys, so gonna have to split them up eventually. But yeah, same deal, everything in year order, try to keep the same products together. And again, that great era where there were so many products, so many companies competing. You had a lot of cool stuff. And I do have cards of both of them with the other teams they played on, but I don't keep them here, I keep them separate. I just like keeping the Yankee stuff together. There's some Paul. I feel like Paul doesn't have as many inserts, but he was still in a lot of the cool base products. Next, back to a one-player binder, and it's Mariano Rivera. The Mariano cards just happen to fit perfectly in this binder, so this became his binder, starting with the 93 Bowman. I do have a couple of his 92 Bowmans, but again, I top load those. I don't keep those in the binder. But yeah, just a similar variety of stuff for him throughout his entire career, and a bunch of his post-playing day stuff, which they've made a ton of it after he retired. Still constantly appearing in insert sets and things. What are some cool inserts? Thought about completing that set once upon a time, but never stuck to it. So yeah, that's Mariano. So we saw Jeter and Mariano. Here are the other two guys from the core four, Pettit and Posada. Had that book in front there. So again, these two guys just happen to fit well together, at least for now. But eventually might have to split them up. I mean, this one's not quite as full as the Tino and Paul binder, but as you all know, I keep adding cards of all these guys, so eventually Pettit and Posada might each need their own binder. I do have Pettit stuff with the Astros, but again, it just doesn't go here. I don't mind having his cards with the Astros, but I just like keeping the Yankee stuff together and no other teams represented. Yeah, a decent amount of Pettit, and then some Posada. I feel like I need to get more Posada. I kind of neglect him at times. Yeah, he's one of those guys that even though he had a good career, they didn't put him in insert sets too often. But still some nice stuff. So that's it for them. Next, here's the Donnie Baseball binder. I'm sure several of you will appreciate this one. Have that back in front there. And this is something that I printed out when I was a kid, and it's been with the Mattingly collection ever since. But yeah, I did a full Mattingly binder video years ago. Obviously, I've added stuff since then, but I have no idea which ones are the ones I've added since then. I get a little frustrated sometimes trying to add Mattinglys because, as you Mattingly collectors know, like some sellers get really silly when it comes to prices on certain things. But still, I try to add a few here and there when I can. Some of the more recent stuff. And then back here got the big 89 folder. Now in this one I have some early 90s players, mostly some rough times during that era, but still I like having every era represented and as many players as possible. It's all part of the team's history. Some Jim Abbott. So yeah, it's fun to flip through and remember some of these older sets and some of these players. Even though it's not the sexiest stuff, sometimes I do kind of like looking at the stuff from this era. Again, it was a time where they didn't necessarily have the best players. They were signing some veterans later in their career. Some of their prospects weren't working out. There's some Kevin Maas, Pascual Perez. Again, sometimes I just feel like looking through this and seeing some of these guys. So still a very enjoyable binder for me. Next, this one is full of current and former prospects. A lot of it is guys that either didn't make it or never got called up or just weren't on the team very long. But again, just fun to flip through sometimes. Just recall some of these guys. Honestly, some of the guys in this binder I don't even remember at all. Yeah, I think it goes back all the way to like the early 90s. Started with the newer stuff up front and then just older stuff the further back you go. And when it comes to any current prospects that are in here, like if they do end up getting called up and do become good players, then they'll eventually get moved into the current players binder. But yeah, again, these are older guys towards the back. I have very few current prospects. I just don't buy a lot of Bowman and stuff like that. Yeah, you got Willie Moe. Thought he was going to be a big deal. Got some Ruben Rivera on the back. I think I even have some Brian Taylor somewhere in there. There he goes. Yeah, let me see if I have any current guys in there. I mean, some of these guys might still be in the system. I'm just never quite sure. There's some Lombard. He's still in the system. I think he's like 19 or 20, so he might have a shot. So again, if he ever comes up and becomes a big Yankee, then I'll take him out of here. Same thing with Spencer Jones. And here is the current players binder. Now obviously this one is ever changing because they're constantly adding people and letting people go. So some guys are like in and out of here within a year or two. But still there are some mainstays in there. Can't wait for the day that I can get the manager out of here. A few boonies. Again, Cole has been here a while. And there's no Judge in here because Judge has his own binder. Just some of these other guys. I think I've already removed some of the guys they lost this offseason so far. Dominguez, who knows if he'll be back next year. He's in some trade rumors. By far the guy that has the most cards in here is Giancarlo. There in the back I have Some of my Topps Living set cards. Had the intention of getting every Yankee from that set, but kind of stalled on it. And since I mentioned Judge having his own binder, might as well show it now. I think I'm getting close to the 250 Judge mark. They're not all in here. Like a lot of his stuff I have top loaded, but still a good amount in here, and constantly adding more. He's definitely the current Yankee that I add the most. And we still have many more to go. Hopefully everybody hasn't passed out yet. So this one has a lot of these iconic Yankees. So Ruth, Mantle, Gehrig, DiMaggio. Don't really have vintage cards of these guys, which is probably why all the vintage collectors completely ignore my channel. But I still have a lot of cool modern stuff of these guys. Been working on that Leaf Babe Ruth set. Some Gehrig. Some Joe D. Mantle by far has the most stuff in here. Got a bunch from this set from G's Mikey years ago. I think I'm missing like 2 or 3 to complete that set. And then a lot of modern Mantle reprints and inserts and things. Stamp. A lot of shiny stuff, which I know a lot of the vintage collectors kind of frown upon, but I like it. I like the old school guys on the modern stuff. And then another Mantle book back there. And here's just some more legends. Got a Joe D magazine there in the front. There you got Yogi. You got Scooter, Whitey. A lot of these just kind of fit well in here, so put them all together. Maris. So again, a lot of reprints and inserts and things. Some refractors. Need to move this one. I'm working on that set. Showed that I picked up a few of those recently. There are the rest of those Murderers Row cards. A few of the '08 Yankee Stadium Legacy, which I'm definitely not working on. There's a complete set of this '03 Yankee Classics, or maybe it was '04. Yeah, I have every single one of those. And some Fleer $1 Million Moments. Here are just a bunch of 70s and 80s guys. Reggie magazine. So again, all of these just go well in there. So got a bunch of guys together in this one. See a bunch of individual players in the front and in the middle, and then towards the back I have like some partial team sets from that era, but I don't really look to complete those. I got a bunch of 87 Donruss, 86 Donruss. Say if I happen to have them, I put them in there, but I'm not gonna drive myself crazy trying to complete any of those. Yeah, when it comes to the individual players, I do still add stuff to these sections. Now we jump back to some modern players. And this one I keep a lot of the players from the 2009 championship team. We got some CC, One of my favorite guys to get. Still very underappreciated in the hobby. You can get some cool stuff of him for pretty much nothing. Some Tex, AJ Burnett. Nick Swisher. Gotta get some more Nick Swisher Yankee stuff. Just feel like I don't see it very often. Bunch of Matsui, the 2009 World Series MVP. Gotta get some more Damon with the Yankees too. And a bunch of A-Rod stuff. And I also have a bunch of A-Rod Seattle and Texas stuff, but once again, that stuff gets kept separate. There's Matsui, Beckett. And here's another mix of players. I think there's mostly players that came up through the system and had at least a few good seasons. You got some Phil Hughes. And some of these guys were also on the 09 championship team. Got some Java. Yeah, some of these guys that have moved on the past few years, like Sevi, Ivanova. So yeah, after a while you accumulate so many of these cards, you just gotta try to figure out some ways to pair these guys together in each binder. So I'm just always kind of thinking of ways that, like, who goes best together. There's some Jordan Montgomery, some Cano, Gardner. He was a big fan favorite. Got to get some more of his stuff. And some Betances, Dances Pantsless, Melky. So yeah, a lot of these guys that they developed and again got at least a few good seasons out of them. Some Shin Ming Wang, some relievers. So yeah, all those guys in there. And then kind of similar to that previous one, just some more former Yankee prospects that I liked for at least a few years. So you got some Soriano, some Glaber, Nick Johnson, and Duhar. So again, all these types of guys from all the different eras. Tyler Austin, Greg Bird, Clint Frazier, who now has a YouTube channel, Ref Snyder, Gary Sanchez. So yeah, I don't really pick up stuff of these guys anymore, but everything that I had, I just put in here together. This one has a bunch of guys from the 2000s and beyond that just kind of passed through. Like, a lot of these guys were only on the team for like 3 or 4 years, some of them less than that. And this one is jam-packed. Like, what I think I'm gonna have to do pretty soon is remove Jason Giambi from this one, because he's my favorite player in this one, and he by far takes up the most real estate in this one. So he's gonna have to get his own binder soon. Yeah, there you have a Bobby Bacala fans of the game card. Some Curtis Granderson. So yeah, a lot of these types of guys. I think Curtis was here, what, 2 years, maybe 3. Some Ellsbury, the Ichiro. Yeah, Ellsbury was technically here a while, but he was injured most of his contract. We'd like to finish off that Ichiro page. So yeah, for a lot of these guys, obviously I'm not like super collecting every single one of these guys. Just like I always say, just putting like a page or 2 together of them just to represent them in the collection. You see like Andrew Jones, Vernon Wells, a lot of these guys just for a season or 2 pass by. Tulowitzki, Soto, of course. I already put Cody in here if they re-sign him, I'm gonna have to move him back to the current players binder. Some Sheffield. Would like to get some more Sheffield. Didi. Abreu. So yeah, in certain situations like this, we like to finish off the page for some of those guys. And then in other situations, you got multiple players on a page. Some Rizzo, Voit, Gio. Now, let me see here. Again, this one's huge, so I gotta balance it on this little stand here. IKF, DJ. And yeah, like I said, a ton of Giambi towards the back. So yeah, I heavily collected Giambi during this time here. And yeah, I think he's the last one here. So that's it for that one. This one follows pretty much the same rules as the previous one, but this one is just for pitchers. If you notice, the other one was just for hitters. There you got some Moose. He was here for a while, so I have several pages of Moose. But yeah, then you're going to see some of these other guys like Pineda, who was here for what, like 2 or 3 years. I think he had one good season. Tanaka, who I really liked. Kuroda was pretty good, but again, just here for like 2 years, I think. But again, once these guys are gone from the team, you gotta find somewhere to put them in the collection. So a lot of these guys ended up in this binder. Yeah, you see some more of these rentals like Sonny Gray, Ottavino, J Happ. Kluber pitched a no-hitter, but was only here 1 season. Chapman, who I never really liked, always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Both those guys with the Mets now, Williams and Holmes. Nestor, really like Nestor. It's unfortunate the way his Yankee career ended. Weaver. I'd like to get some more Randy Johnson with the Yankees. Kevin Brown, who I did not like, but even he gets some representation. And a few other random guys there. And we are down to the final 2. And these are 2 of my favorite ones because this has a lot of players from the 90s championships. And again, I have them split between pitchers and hitters. Obviously, this one's pitchers. And that's one of my favorite Beckett covers there. Clemens from his first year as a Yankee. And you all know I'm a big David Cohn guy. So yeah, I'm still constantly adding to this one. El Duque, Jimmy Key, Gooden. So yeah, I loved watching all these players and still love collecting them to this day. Some David Wells. And a bunch of Clemens. Another Clemens Beckett. Some of the relief pitchers that were kind of unsung heroes. Mike Stanton, Jeff Nelson, Ramiro Mendoza, Kenny Rogers, and Denny Nagel, who didn't really contribute much, but technically they were on a couple of championship teams. And of course, Hideki Irabu. Last one, finally made it, guys. So again, this is going to be hitters from that same era. There's a Beckett after the 98 championship. And these are cool, these Metro cards. Got some celebration shots there, and the manager of those teams, Joe Torre. And some of the hitters. So yeah, some of these guys were here for one championship, some of them for multiple. Charlie Hayes, Leyritz with the big home run in '96. Mariano Duncan. Girardi, who was also the manager in '09. Darryl. Again, just love these guys, appreciate what they did. We're probably never going to see anything like that again, Yankee fans. That's why I love kind of reminiscing and collecting all these guys from my favorite era as a Yankee fan. Knobloch, Soho. I mean, Cashman was making some really good moves during that time. Brocious was a nice pickup. Shane Spencer had a bunch of home runs in '98. Glenn Allen Hill out of nowhere hit a bunch of home runs. David Justice. With some team shots in the back there. Homer Bush. Even Canseco, who I don't think played in the playoffs in 2000, he hit some home runs in September that year. And Polonia was technically an early '90s Yankee, but came back and was part of the 2000 team, so that's why he's in there. So that will be the end. And bear in mind, this is just my Yankee binders. It doesn't even cover all my other PC binders. So yeah, it's a lot of work, takes a lot of space, but it's definitely a labor of love. And I enjoy all of it. So hope you all enjoyed watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.